Hi everyone, this is Kelly from The Truth and Story, and I'm here to show you this Oracle deck called the Hedgewitch Botanical Oracle by Shiloh Thompson. I will put a link to Queen Auset had made a video. I'd looked at this, but I'll be honest, I'd been disappointed with quite a number, not disappointed, but I hadn't been as thrilled with a number of plant decks, and so I'm kind of was a little bit gun-shy to get another one, and had decided, you know, I really enjoy working with actual flowers and herbs and essential oils from herbs and flowers, and maybe that's just the way I'm going to work with them, because I just haven't really connected with a couple of decks that I tried. But I saw Queen Auset had done a walkthrough of this, and I thought, I really love the Line Strider Tarot. So Shiloh Thompson is the creator of the Line Strider Tarot, which is really gorgeous. And it's a deck I actually really like to use. She makes use of a lot of white space and a lot of color, and it's an absolutely stunning deck. There are just a couple that aren't my absolute favorites, and it's mostly the ones like with the, you know, where you have an animal and all. I can't remember which one it is. I think I saw it when we passed by it, but where they have like party hats on. You know, that one just, for me, doesn't go like with the rest of the deck very well, but for the most part, I mean, I love all of these cards. So it's just beautiful. There is actually a lot of plant energy in, or she makes use of plant energy in the deck, and she makes note of that in each one of the cards in the guidebook. So for example, this is just the Page of Cups here, and its associated plants is Damiana and Cinquefoil, Nine of Wands, Bayberry, and St. John's Worts, and so on. So each of the cards has an associated plant with it, and then very often there are plants in the cards themselves. If you start, of course now I won't be able to find one, but there are actually quite a few that have specific plants in here, around here. Those are fish. It's a beautiful owl plant there. So there are plants in the deck itself, but then each of the cards is associated with a plant in the guidebook. So I really love this deck, and so when I saw she was doing that, I thought, oh, okay. Now she also has a Lenormand deck. Now this isn't pure white like the other two, which makes use of a lot of just pure white space. This has different like colors of wood. But I really love this Lenormand as well. So of course, if she has an oracle, you know, what are you going to do at this point, right? So, and I really liked the write-up in the book. I think that Queen Auset had read a little bit. I thought, okay. So I found this at Barnes and Noble's. And I have the membership, which is 10% off, and then I had an extra 20% off. So this is retailed at $27.99 US, and then I got 30% off of that. US Amazon, I think it's still pre-order right now, but I know that you can find it in the US in Barnes & Noble's as well as Books A Million, if you have a Books A Million near you, and I'm pretty sure Queen Auset's shop probably sells it as well. So I will again have a link to her video below here. So it's a Llewellyn deck. So we have their new sort of magnetic decks that they have. It's really beautifully done with obviously artwork from the deck. We have the guidebook, I can't talk, the guidebook, which is really beautiful and full color. So you have full size, I would say those are probably full size color images. Really beautifully done guidebook. I've already looked at it. And then you have the cards. So the card backs are, for me, awesome because they are dandelions, and dandelions are my favorite flower. Yes, they are a flower, not a weed. And I love it. So that's that. We'll go ahead. So beautiful. I mean, Llewellyn's really stepped up on their boxes, and so I don't really have any complaints about that. And actually this cardstock isn't too bad. There was a deck, I think it's Tarot in Wonderland, I need to compare this to. It felt like it was maybe extra thin, but I mean, this is their new cardstock. Again, I love their old cardstock. I wish they had left it, but they were listening to the calls of the people. We'll put that over here. The guidebook has, you know, about the author here, and then it goes in. This is what I wanted to read because I really liked this. She says, "Welcome to the Hedgewitch Botanical Oracle. This collection of 40 botanical cards draws inspiration from the grimoire of the Hedgewitches, wise folk who walk the thin spaces between worlds. In this book, you will find descriptions of the plants illustrated on the cards, where to find them, and how they were used in past times and the ways in which we might still employ them. Each lovingly illustrated card in the deck includes an oracle property that can provide guidance to a seeker or meditative focus to a querent." But she goes on and talks about, maybe it was in a different section, this right here. I love this. "These oracle cards can be used as an oracle deck or as flashcards with this book as a study guide. My hope is that the illustrations will help the users learn to identify these plants by sight, by blossom, leaf shape, and fruit. It helps you to learn about the plants, their history, historical application, where to find them, what's commonly used, whether they're edible, whether they're medicinal, cooking recipes." So really like how to, you know, the plant in full. And then also, of course, having the oracle as well. And I love that she calls it a field guide versus a guidebook, just because it just gives that feel to it, which I quite liked. So, and it really gets right into then, you know, she gives you a, please don't just randomly eat plants that you pick, which I think is very good advice. And then it goes into the index of the cards. So, for example, here with the first card of the bearberry, she has, of course, what information you have on the card. She also gives some other names that you might find it under. And then she talks about the plant. She gives you some tips in how to actually, what you might look at if you are trying to make sure to be able to identify it. And then she'll go into a paragraph or two of kind of what this would mean in an oracle sense. And so, for example, strength, a quality strongly associated with the bear, is the oracle property of this card. Aside from being a favorite food for the animal, bearberry echoes the bear's energy in its qualities of hardiness and the ability to thrive in difficult conditions. In almost any culture, bears are considered talismans of strength, confidence, and a grounded energy. In some cultures, as well as in the divination system such as Lenormand, the bear has a matriarchal aspect and can represent a strong, patient woman. And then it goes on even some more, in tying it to the Queen of Pentacles, tying it to that mama bear, and so forth. So you also have, again, the more common medicinal and herbal usages, gives us again other names, and then the key oracle. This I think they could have left out because they have excuse me, the other names right here, and then they have the oracle right here on here. So I don't know why they did this. It was probably done in text. Excuse me. It was probably done in text before they did the layout, and that should have been removed because it actually creates a lot of extra white space that wouldn't have to have been there if you go through the whole book. But that's a nitpick. I mean, it doesn't bother anything. And then it goes on to the next one, and you have this all the way through. And I think that's it. There's not any, there's some, oh yeah, in the back she gives some, and sometimes there's recipes. I'm trying to find, I thought there was one early on, right here. So with borage, she actually gives you a drink that you can make. But then at the back of the, she has, let's see, she has some closing thoughts. She has some suggested reading about herb guide, so that's lovely. And then she has some additional recipes. So these are things to make in spring. summer. So for each of the seasons, she has some extra recipes that you might make with plants and herbs and flowers. So I think that is really lovely and quite, I'm really impressed with the guidebook on this. I have quite a few books on plants and herbs and flowers, flower folklore. It's something that I have been looking into for a very long time, but intensely studying as well, certainly in the last year or two. So very exciting to see that. So let's zoom in on the cards. Here we have the backs. Again, I already showed those, but they're dandelions and they are reversible. She doesn't give any particular readings in the book. However, anything you would use an oracle deck for, obviously can use. It is the size of a tarot deck. I believe it's the same, yeah. It's the same size as a typical Llewellyn tarot card. So you can see the beautiful image. Now, I have heard some maybe complaints about the fact that it's kind of drawn and only partially colored. Number one, that's sort of her style. And number two, it just reminds you of a, botanical book, although this, of course, would be completely colored and painted probably, but I really like it, and I believe that the reason she would have done it is also because when you see just the black outlines, you're really able to see the shapes very well, which is helpful when you're actually trying to know whether, trying to find this plant in the wild. So I think it works really well for the purposes, and I think aesthetically, I think it's quite beautiful. So it has sort of a common name, bearberry, and then it has Arctostaphylos or Uva ursa as the, I guess, more scientific or technical name, and then it has the keyword of strength. And so, I mean, look how beautiful that is. Blackberry for adaptation. I just think these are really gorgeous. Borage, again, for courage. Burdock for tenacity. Of this only, of course, has this hint of purple. I would have perhaps on this one liked to have seen a little bit more colors of the leaves, because when you're painting plants, there's so many different shades of green. Same thing here. I would have at least like one leaf to be the color, kind of give it some color, so you get that tone. Is it a bright tone? Is it a more mossy tone? So, I can see some degree of like, okay, I really wish that had a little more color, but I just think they're beautiful. Calendula for brighten, because it does stand out as that sun drop. Again, I'm not going to say it anymore because I'll probably apply to any card that doesn't have it. I would like some greenery and some of the color, and then the rest can remain. And you will see differences. So for example, these are my favorite. These are really beautifully sketched, but they, whereas this is such a simple sketch that there is no shading or anything like that. And I would have liked them all to be like this, because look, well, that one's not. I guess I'll start piles. So that would be another, thing that I would say is they all kind of be evenly like this, beautifully sketched, and then some color, and then some color in the leaves and some color in the plant. I think that would be very helpful, both for us looking beautiful and also for kind of recognizing the plant in the wild, which is kind of the purpose of the deck. But they're gorgeous. Cattail for build. This one's sort of in between the two, but I really like it. Here we have chamomile for soothe. Chicory for sustain. Clover for nurture. Cohosh for repel. There's my beautiful dandelion for humility. I thought that was really interesting. Let's read this one. We'll use this one as an example of the reading because I love dandelions. Okay, clover. Clover. Humility. Other names for the dandelion are blowball, lion's tooth, cankerwort, milkwitch, yellow gowan, Irish daisy, monk's head, and priest's crown. I've heard of a couple of those because I have studied dandelions, but I hadn't heard of cankerwort, which I thought was interesting. I did hear of blowball in another deck that I looked at. Dandelions are considered a weed. I don't. But every part of this amazing plant is edible, provided the plant has not been sprayed with weed killers. That's important. Dandelion leaves can be eaten raw, steamed, fried, or blanched. The flowers can be eaten raw, fried, or used to make wine. The root can be dried, ground, and roasted for use as a coffee substitute similar to chicory, or it can be prepared as a root vegetable. It is a general stimulant to the digestive system and the urinary organs especially. A tincture is made from the tops or the roots. All parts of the plant contain a somewhat bitter, milky juice that is used for medicinal purposes. Combined with citrus and other ingredients, the flower petals are used to make dandelion wine. Dandelion is one of the ingredients in traditional root beer. Dandelion leaves contain abundant vitamins and minerals, especially vitamins A, C, and K, and are good sources of calcium, potassium, iron, and manganese. I thought it was magnesium, but it's not. The English name dandelion is a derivative of the French dent de lion, meaning lion's tooth, referred to the toothed aspect of the dandelion leaves. You can see that kind of jagged. This homely little plant is a constant reminder that just because something is common or even vilified does not mean it is useless. The dandelion has a rich history going back thousands of years that twines together with human efforts. Though humble, close to the ground, and found in every corner of the world, this plant is a gift. It is full of nutrients that humans, animals, and countless butterflies and other insects can use. When you feel underappreciated or invisible, remember the dandelion and its ability to flourish. Seen from a different perspective, the oracle property humility is needed when assessing our own importance in a given situation or relationship. Are you overestimating your own contributions, value, or difficulties? It's very easy to slip into a narcissistic mindset. After all, we are each at the center of our own universe. However, it is sometimes essential to step back and be very honest about where we stand in relation to others. Everyone wants to be heard or feel valued. Are you doing your best to see others in as kind a light as you see yourself? Then again, it repeats the other names and oracle properties. So that's the full text from the dandelion. Love it. Here we have the daylily for ephemeral. I love daylilies. Here we have dogwood for defend. Here we have gorgeous one, elder for ritual. I've worked a lot with elder, and especially with elderberries in the last few months, so I really love this. We have fern for growth. I like that we actually have the root here. We have foxglove connections. Beautiful garlic for service. I have a bunch. I had really filled out my set of Sennelier paints for the purpose of doing botanical painting. So this is another reason why this really excites me. But here you can see the difference. For ghost pipe, we have a mystery, but you can see just real rough outlines here versus much more shading that you see in some others. So I do kind of wish that these types were slightly more sketched, but in terms of finding the plants, I think it could be helpful. Here we have the golden poppy for dream, which is beautiful. Hawthorn for sacred. Hollyhock for abundance. Huckleberry for resourcefulness. Indigo for enhance. Juniper for invigorate. Lady's mantle is so beautiful for magic. Marshmallow for adversity. I need to start a pile. Beautiful. I love this image of a moral for regenerate. Nettle for tribulation. Pine for preserve. Plantain for nourish. Wild Rose for clarity, Rowan for protection, Sage for purify, Salal for subdue, Samphire for adventure, St. John's wort for stabilize, love the strawberry for enjoy, and trout lily for patience, violet, which I love violets, it might be my second favorite. My kids always were bringing me violets and dandelions for attract, and then wormwood for caution. So there are 40 cards. Let me zoom back out. And you'll see that there are a few. I didn't pay close attention, but we have adversity, we have tribulation, we have caution, we have repel as well. I like that we have repel, we have defend. I think there is a protection one as well. Tenacity, I like that word. Protection, subdue, that's interesting, soothe and subdue, adventure, stabilize, so that's a situation that's, you know, a rocky but needs to be stabilized, can show up there. So there are a few, these are 6, but I feel like there's another one, I might have not hit them all, but there are some that do, out of 40 cards, that do either have the the solution to a situation that might be difficult, such as soothing and subduing and those types of things, or are directly reflecting that kind of thing. So I really like that. I think because there are a lot of plants and obviously crystals and sort of natural energies that are there for us, and there's certainly ones that I use when making certain blends of things and stuff like that. So I do quite like that. It does have a little bit of a, my window is open right from this direction, and so you can see that there is a little bit of gloss, but it's not obnoxious at all. This isn't really bad. This is not bad cardstock. Again, I prefer the original Llewellyn, but it doesn't feel bad, and it shuffles really beautifully. So, you know, you could, especially according to the book as well, you know, this is something that you could use just to work through if you're going to work on working with plants. So, for example, I was doing that in a traveler's notebook, where I was going through and kind of sketching them and painting them and looking things up and sort of learning about different plants. Now, I haven't done too many in there. My friend Bart had sent me this little sketchbook that's square, and it fits perfectly. If you've seen on my Instagram or the other Hedgewitch deck that I have, which I'll put a link to below, I show my herbal, where I have all my herbs and my essential oils, and they're little squares, and this actually fits perfectly in there. And so I've already kind of mapped some out that I'm going to use for herbs that I use a lot of. So I've already kind of put those in and some of my own keywords for those. So then I'm going to be sketching those over here and being able to add more information. But I have plenty of other pages to be able, like there's already Lady's Mantle, because this is something I use with geomancy figure. It goes with a specific geomancy. That's one I need to pick up, clearly. I'll be going through and sketching some leaves and some of the berries and or some of the flowers, and sort of doing some botanical work in this as a working book to go in there. So I'm kind of switching over to this because it fits in with where all my herbs are at. But if you were going to do something like this, a deck, something like that where you wanted to really study, a deck like this would be really great. You could leave it in alphabetical order, and you could be able to kind of use that as sort of flashcards and a study guide, and take with you out into the woods to, you know, kind of go foraging and see what you can find. So they can certainly be used in that manner. But then, of course, it has the oracle properties, because, of course, plants have, all these different things have history, where we have folklore around them, we have stories around them, we know their medicinal uses, which can give us an idea of how you might use those in an oracle. And so it can be really beautiful. I actually, one of the things that I really like is to combine flower oracle cards with my crystal deck. Because they have similar, to me, similar energies. Like they each have their energy and their uses, right? But whereas the crystals are so old and enduring and long-lived, we have these really ephemeral energies here that are here for a short time, go back into the earth, come back again. Very cyclical and very ephemeral, and doesn't last, but is still very potent because you can dry it, you can use it for medicines and all of this. So they have, for me, a similar energy at a different plane. So one being so ancient and so old and so enduring, and so stays the course. It's just this you can't tap it out, or I don't really see the energies being tapped out of crystals. This kind of thing where you have the more cyclical, and so that growth process, and then the death and decay, and then the growth process, and this beautiful cycle. So to me, when you put those two together, it makes a beautiful reading. So I really like working with the two together in terms of reading. I was going somewhere with that, but I lost my point. Anyways, I'm just excited because I feel like the feel of this deck already. And again, I have had other decks that just haven't quite lived up to what I was looking for, and this just feels really great. So again, I don't tend to use oracle decks for huge. They're usually in conjunction. You could, as I said, you could actually do, 3-card tarot reading, and then sort of pull do and don't, or an underlying message here. Look how beautiful those would look together. And so then you can add those into the information. So you can certainly use it with the tarot deck. You could certainly, if you have these, I know a lot of people like her work and have these. But you can certainly do, say, it does make you wish these were all white, but I think it makes a beautiful contrast and brings that sort of wood feeling into things. So you could do, I don't do Lenormand. I don't lay 9 cards like that, but for the sake of the purpose of this. And then I put in for 3 voices reading, I then put in for tarot cards for the 4 elements. So now I have the elements involved, and then I can pull 2 oracle cards on the outside, and you have this really beautiful, I actually quite like that. You have some relief from the pure white with the Lenormand cards, so you can certainly combining them. And again, decks don't have to be matchy-matchy. I love matchy decks, but one thing I don't like about, I love my table reading space, but sometimes I can't get the cards up. But if you already have them, it's nice, and I certainly love things like that because I do a lot of 3 voices readings. So it's, for me, that's a bonus, right? On its own, but I think these could be read really beautifully on their own, because you simply have that. You can do that. What to let go of, tribulation. What to hold on to. How do you soothe? What are the soothing what do you bring into bear for nurturing and taking care of yourself as you are dealing with the tribulation, so that you're not all worked up. And then I might take and then the nurture one comes up, right? So you might actually lean into this nurturing. Let's look at the difference they have between soothe and nurture. That I opened right to. I love these types of clover, number 2. They were the other ones that were my favorite, making fairy houses when I was a little girl. And let's be honest, as an older girl. Oh, I'm looking at the wrong part for there we go, chamomile. So let's see, because soothe and nurture to me kind of seem similar. So let's see. The oracle property Soothe reminds us to care for ourselves and others, especially in times of stress or difficulty. No matter what problem or decision you are facing, a calm and thoughtful mind will always help you to move forward. This property may also indicate that now is not the most prudent time for confrontation, breakup, or change. Sometimes unruffling yours or other people's feathers can calm a situation. It's an action to soothe, but so is nurture. So let's see what they say for nurture. The oracle property of the excuse me. The oracle property of this plant is nurture, as the tender sweetness of clover can remind us of how to nurture those around us, and can also apply to the care and tending needed to sustain our own ideas and projects. Some situations in life require discipline, tenacity, and a strong will, and others can only be brought to fruition with encouragement and kindness. So it's to me, these are quite similar. I would have liked a very different energy, but they are different. So Soothe lets us know that there is a problem, right? There are ruffled feathers, there are painful situation, there is a uncomfortable situation, and you are going to soothe that situation. So this has that underlying understanding that there's a problem that needs to be soothed and calmed down. Whereas nurture should be happening regardless, right? Nurturing isn't to do with there already being a stressful situation. We should be nurturing ourselves and others all of the time. And it's an act of, it's a preemptive act in some ways, right? We should always be nurturing ourselves and other people. Whereas this is a reactive. There is a situation that's happened and now we're reacting. So that I quite like. I just was curious as to how those two would be different. So there you can see that. But yeah, you can do three card readings like that. Any ways that you use oracles, or as I can definitely, I've done this with another deck, and I can certainly see, picking out three sort of those, sorry. Three of those really strong crystal energies, or long enduring sense of crystal energies, and then pairing that with an ephemeral plant energy. And I really love this. This is something these have the quotes as well to add in there. And so I really love doing readings like that where I combine crystals and flowers. So this is certainly a way in which I will be using this deck, but that's because I already do a reading like that. So there you have it, just a sort of variety of ways that you might use a deck like this, and also a look at the cards. So I hope that you found this to be helpful. I'm really looking forward to using this deck both as an oracle and as a medicinal, so that when I'm making a group of different things I might have in it, I can kind of pull those cards out. Okay, I'm going to have a little bit of hawthorn and a little bit of clover, and I might add in some chamomile. And so then having those nurture, sacred, and soothe kind of understanding. You could also go through and kind of build a recipe sort of based on what you're trying to do to set out. It doesn't mean you should ingest it, so I'm not suggesting you should ingest all combinations. I use them for burning or simply for sprinkling over something that you're doing for intention. So it doesn't mean that we should willy-nilly be ingesting things, which she talks about, but there's a lot of ways in which to use herbs and oils and the actual plants and flowers. So I hope that you enjoyed this. I'm really looking forward to, I feel really pleased to have this deck come. I didn't even know anything about it until I saw Miss Auset's, and I'm like, okay, yes. So thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.